Thank you for joining us today and watching this video. I'm Michelle Ray, the Visibility Director with the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger. And we wanted to share a little more about the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger to help you understand what we do, how we do it, and where we're headed next. So I'm going to hand it over to one of our executive directors, Joelle McClurg, to get us kicked off.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I appreciate it. And thank you for everyone tuning in and watching the video as well. You can go to the next slide, please, Michelle. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Joelle McClurg. I'm the Executive Director of Integration for the Blueprint, and I'll just talk a little bit about the history of the Blueprint, what we are, and what we've done previously over the last couple of years. But first, the big question, what is the Blueprint? Probably the question you're asking yourself right now. Next slide, please. So the Blueprint started as a multi-year plan. Back in 2016, the Colorado Health Foundation, which is one of the largest health foundations in the country, they wanted to address hunger as a social determinant of health and see if we could improve health outcomes statewide by focusing on hunger. And the question of how to do that was an important one. So the Health Foundation began convening consultants to kind of do a deeper data dive, some stakeholdering, and kind of assess what we needed to do in order to end hunger in Colorado. So we collected a big statewide network of partners. Hundreds of folks provided input into the creation of a blueprint document. And this sort of collective impact model was created. And the collective impact model is one where you rely on stakeholders who are engaged in the space or focused on a topic area and kind of direct and wrangle that goodness accordingly. So it was a big effort from a lot of different entities, from a lot of different organizations, all coming together to inform this particular document. And we all aligned around one collective vision. Michelle, next slide, please. And that vision was a Colorado where every person living here, means everyone, regardless of where they're from, their immigration status, who they are, their identity, can access the food they choose. Now, in that there's this element of cultural appropriateness or cultural relevance, spiritual relevance, and helpfulness as well, acknowledging that there are many different helpful diets based on somebody's culture and background. Where they want it, it's a localization of food, having access to good food systems locally. That also includes a concept or an element of climate sustainability as well, good sustainably produced food. And when they need it, frequency. So addressing the element of hunger so that there's repetition and that there are no gaps, that there is no sort of lapses in somebody's ability to access food. Next slide, please. So what ended up happening was the collective impact group, this stakeholdering group, aligned around 5 different goals within the blueprints. The first goal was to increase public understanding or public and political will around hunger to really motivate sort of decision makers, either at the governor's level, either in the state legislature, either public opinion at large, to focus on hunger as an issue that we all really needed to address. The second goal was to increase the number of Coloradans who have local access to nutritious food, and that's food in a retail setting, again, with a focus on food that is both healthful and culturally appropriate. Next slide, please. Now, the third goal is very closely linked to the second goal, so much so that they actually function together in the same work group 2-3. And that's to increase the number of Coloradans who have smooth access to local organizations that provide food. So that's charitable food access. So thinking about food from your local food bank, your food pantry. Goal number 4 is focused on maximizing enrollment in SNAP and WIC. That's the food stamp program and the WIC program, special nutrition program for women, infants, and children. And those are the federal programs that feed a lot of people. So how do we maximize enrollment? So Colorado is a state leader in these programs. And the final goal was maximizing enrollment in child nutrition programs, both in and outside of school. So not just school lunch, but before school, like the national school or the school breakfast program, or during the summer with programs like summer food service program or congregate feeding sites. So how do we really emphasize and maximize access that children have to school that children have to food year round? And so, as I mentioned, all of these goals We created work groups that sort of focused on each goal as a result. And then we were able to create special project teams focused on kind of directing and achieving tasks underneath each of these goals. Next slide, please. I'll hand things off to Dolores.
Thank you so much, Joel. Okay, as an organization, we are committed to finding equity and fighting against hunger in all communities in Colorado. And this commitment means that we welcome diverse opinions to guarantee respect to equity and guarantee that there are voices that are usually disadvantaged or not heard, ensuring that they can provide that voice. This practice includes compensating community members, provide interpretation services for language justice, create a land acknowledgement, and offer equity resources like learning series and the continuum of equity that we have created here in Blueprint. We can continue. Next slide. Our structure in our organization includes our public and political will, or our governing council that includes our collective impact group and trailhead, our work groups, our committees, and the different project groups are focused in different aspects of hunger, including public and political will and all the way to child nutrition programs. And Blueprint is like a center. It includes partnerships, people, entities, so that we can create a social level change and system level. I am in charge of leading a group of people that have experts that lead the organization. Something else that I wanted to talk about is that all of these work groups are aligned with the goals that Joel had already mentioned before. For example, work group 1 is aligned with the first goal. Work group 2 and 3 with goals 2 and 3. And Joel mentioned these. Work group 4 with goal 4, and so on. Next slide. And to make sure that all of these happens, we are very fortunate because we have a team of experts who don't only have a certain level of experience with certain topics, but they also provide different levels of support. So they can be people from, they can serve as outreach, and we have Justice Onwarded as our Director of Impact, Retta Allen, our Director of Policies, Michelle Reid, our Director of Visibility, and Leticia Macias, who is the person that helped us like put us all together. She's our glue, and we have Joel McClurk as our Executive Director of Integration, and myself, Dolores, as the Executive Director of Vision. This is the team that they do the daily work so that we can collectively reduce hunger in our communities. Next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about what is exactly the work that we're doing every day in our communities with our communities.
Right. So I am Michelle, the Visibility Director with the Colorado Blueprint in Hunger, and I am the staff liaison for Work Group 1, which is focused on building public and political will to end hunger. We are focused in a couple different areas. And so right now we have been putting more of a focus on language and messaging. So really looking at communications and accessibility. So this does include language justice, but also thinking about accessibility from other standpoints as well too, in terms of the words that we use, the visuals that we use, what the font size is. So really thinking about how we can make things more accessible for everyone who wants to be involved with the Blueprint and are also looking to get connected to resources to support their community and as well as for individuals within communities. So Another area we're focused on is supporting the other work groups and committees that you'll be hearing about here shortly in ways in thinking about this in terms of building public and political will and thinking about accessibility and communication. So the words that we use, avoiding acronyms, making spaces welcoming and inclusive for everyone. And then that is another kind of focus too, is in terms of connecting with community across Colorado and creating welcoming spaces. So we do have a forming project team that is looking to do this more in terms of thinking about when you're hosting an event, whether it be virtual or in person, what are all those things you should take into consideration to ensure the spaces are welcoming and inclusive for everyone. And so that's just a brief overview of what Work Group 1 in terms of building public and political will is focused on. And I will pass it back now to Dolores, who will share a little more about Work Group 2-3.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit more about Work Group 2 and 3, which deals with everything related to healthy food in our communities. It could be access or charity. In this project, in this work group, we have 4 different projects in particular that I'm going to talk about. The first one is micro grants for small grassroots projects. And in this team, what we did is that we put $30,000 from Blueprint to support different community organizations, grassroots organizations, where these amount of funds can make a huge difference in creating access to healthy foods in their own community. We also have our next team, which is the support for community leaders. And these project dedicate themselves to support community leaders that are already working in their communities day after day, connecting with their neighbors, family members, their networks, to be able to help them with resources, help them connect with others, and work regarding food justice. We provide support. And this team right now is working in providing free workshops for the communities regarding, different topics. And all of the topics have as an end goal to work towards food justice in our communities. The third project that I'm going to talk about is the Healthy Food Incentive Programs. In these project team, we're working to evaluate the different healthy food incentive programs and also to learn from our communities, like how effective have those programs been in the daily life of people who use those. And that evaluation took place last year, and right now we are learning a little bit more about what are the actions that we can take to continue improving those programs. And the fourth and last project team I'm going to talk about is the SNAP and WIC Retailer Certification Assistance. And with this project, we have funds to provide technical assistance to small business owners like meat places or small corner stores that are interested in accepting SNAP, the SNAP program. So that's a little bit of what we're working on in the work group 2 and 3. And now I'm going to pass the microphone to Greta so that she can talk about to the work group 4.
Much, Dolores. My name is Greta Allen. I'm the policy director at the Blueprint, and I have the pleasure of facilitating our work group 4, which focuses on increasing enrollment and access to SNAP and WIC. SNAP being the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and WIC being the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infant, and children. We know that increasing access and enrollment to these programs requires multiple angles of advocacy and support. And we do that by engaging Coloradans eligible for these programs, as well as our county human services workers who are administrating these programs, and our State Department partners who are responsible for making sure the programs in our state reflect the requirements of our federal government. So within this work group, we have 3 project teams, all focused on different ways to make sure these programs, SNAP and WIC, are working for Coloradans. The first project team is SNAP Advocacy for the Houseless. This project team focuses on how our unhoused neighbors are or are not accessing SNAP as a program, and wants to explore different ways to improve that access and look at options within our communities to make it so that for unhoused Coloradans, accessing the food they want, where they want it, when they need it, is the easy thing to do. So this group currently has been working on leveraging federal program opportunities for SNAP, as well as exploring partnerships with restaurant owners and using data to identify best practices for serving these neighbors. Our second project team within this work group is our Connecting Food and Health project team. This project team is really focused on the linkages that occur in our healthcare systems, particularly the Medicaid program, and those linkages between those programs and access to food. So this project team brings together stakeholders from both the healthcare space and the food access space to discover innovative ways to align our programs and ensure that folks on Medicaid are having the best access they can to food within their communities. The last project team within Work Group 4 is our cross-program alignment team, very similar to the work of Connecting Food and Health, but more focused on the administrative side of the SNAP and WIC and Medicaid programs, and seeing how we can reduce barriers for clients in applying for these programs, staying on the programs, and lifting up that these 3 programs often have very similar eligibility requirements. And how can we make it easier for Coloradans to get on all 3 of these programs and stay on them as long as they're eligible? And I will pass it to Joelle to review Work Group 5.
Perfect. It's me again, Joelle. I'll be speaking on behalf of Work Group 5 since Justice is not in today. But Work Group 5 is focused on child nutrition programs and expanding access to these programs so kids have food that they need to reach their full human potential year-round, not just inside of school. So currently, underneath this work group, we have 3 project teams. The first I'll speak to is in the middle, Outreach and Community Acceptance. It's one of the longest standing project teams in the Blueprint, there since the very, very beginning. But this project team is focused on making messaging and marketing more accessible for programs that support kids, especially outside of school, like the Summer Food Service Program and then congregate feeding programs as well. So what we do in this project team is, in partnership with the Department of Education, we have created a story map, kind of like a GIS map, that we use to show all of these feeding sites across Colorado, to tell a bit about their successes, to identify potential gaps in where these sites are, and focus on improving access as a result. And so we're really excited to continue to participate with the Department of Education to update this map on a regular basis, which I've heard from schools they use regularly in their efforts. The next project team is Awareness and Acceptance of School Meals. Also kind of a marketing and communications branch of child nutrition programming. But in this one in particular right now, we're focusing on the Healthy School Meals for All program in Colorado. That's the Universal Meals program where now every kid has access to school breakfast and the National School Lunch Program free of charge, regardless of income. So currently in this project team, we're supporting a messaging and marketing campaign funded by the Health Foundation and the Colorado Access Foundation to really kind of target messaging across Colorado to ensure that for the Healthy School Meals program, families are completing necessary applications, so they still need to complete them even though everybody's receiving meals, that we're marketing the successes of the program, and that we're able to also market any job vacancies that schools have, because in order to serve all these kids these meals, we need to make sure there are enough cafeteria workers to do so. And then finally, we have the project team for advocacy and support for systems change. It's an advocacy group around child nutrition programs, and its focus right now is on time to eat, meaning that ensuring that kiddos have adequate time to eat in school so that they're not feeling rushed, so that when they do sit down, they're able to calmly eat enough, so that they're not kind of feeling compressed, and that we're able to really feel the full effects of having these universal meals programs. So I think from there, I will hand things back off to you, Greta, if you want to do policy, and then I can talk about data and evaluation.
Thanks, Joelle. Yeah, so I'd love to highlight two committees that I'm also the facilitator of, and that is our State Policy Committee and our Federal Policy Committee. It's a key strategy of the Blueprint to advance legislative efforts at both our state and our federal levels to support our goals as an organization and the goals of the community members and network partners that make up the Blueprint. Both our state and our federal policy committees are open for anyone to join. There's no experience or expertise required to participate. We welcome folks from a diverse array of anti-hunger stakeholders, folks working on broader social justice work in the state, and of course, community members with lived and living expertise that can inform our policy strategies moving forward. A key tenet of both these committees is ensuring that they are inclusive and impactful spaces. And so we do that by making sure that all decisions are collectively made by members and that we're prioritizing access to information and skill sets and building folks' ability to advocate for what's important to them. I'll pass it back to Joelle to review our evaluation committee.
Thanks, Greta. And the committee that Justice is the liaison for is the Data and Evaluation Committee. This committee is really focused on looking at metrics of anti-hunger or hunger across Colorado and making those consumable and easy to access for the public at large. This committee is in charge of projects like maintaining our public-facing data dashboard, which is an aggregate of a lot of different data sources around anti-hunger programs or anti-hunger statistics across the state, all in one place, which you can access on our website. The Data and Evaluation Committee also has another project right now, which is focused on developing a local procurement map in partnership with Colorado State University and the Colorado Department of Agriculture. Basically a tool by which schools or different nonprofit entities can have a database, a repository that lists different producers, farmers who produce food for charitable programs for schools, so they can enter into a partnership with them and more easily access this information. So say there's somebody in northeastern Colorado, they're a nonprofit and they would like to partner with a local farmer to have fresh produce available at their local food pantry. We would love to create a database that has that information so they can easily link up and purchase. Then I'll continue on talking a little bit about community investments that the Blueprint has engaged in since our inception in 2019. Beginning in 2019, the program office was stood up, and almost immediately thereafter, the COVID pandemic happened. We were approached by a number of funders who wanted us to help them spread money around, basically to address the pandemic and the public health emergency commiserately. Since then, we've also become engaged with our state's Food Pantry Assistance Grant, which is a grant program so that food pantries can purchase food for distribution at their charitable locations. And we've also just had other philanthropic entities and trusts approach us to say, you know, we have an amount of funding we would like to distribute out to address anti-hunger efforts. Can you help us, you know, identify different recipients of these awards and distribute the money accordingly? So that's become a core component of what we do at the Blueprint, is distribution of these grants, these award dollars, So since 2019, we've actually distributed about $17.6 million in over 1,500 different awards to over 550 different organizations. So we're really proud of that. Part of that are the food pantry assistance grants I mentioned. Most recent iteration was about 4 million that went to 245 pantries in 2023. Greta and the policy committee are working hard to make sure there's additional funding available in 2024 and beyond for that program. And then I mentioned the community grants or the community sort of messaging campaign under Work Group 5 for the Healthy School Meals for All program. A major component of that is providing micro grants to local community organizations to message the program to their local communities. And so we provided, close to $300,000 in grants to local community entities to be able to support this messaging and marketing campaign directly to the members of their community and really increase awareness locally so that we have subject matter experts who can help disseminate information around the program directly to the community members.
Okay, so now we learn a little bit more about what is Blueprint, how does it work, how do the sessions happen, and how do we work together to continue our work and reduce hunger in our communities in Colorado. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about what's next. What is the next step for Blueprint? And I'm gonna tell you that everything started with a big question about the future of our collective impact entity. When the governance council decided that Blueprint needed to evolve as a connector, facilitator, and an inclusive being in the hunger space, now we need to center diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging to improve the participation and community engagement and our collaborative efforts in the communities in Colorado. In this effort of transformation, we want to reimagine or we want to imagine a future where our community walks with us hand by hand, so in concert with community. And we have continued working with the community to find solutions to reduce hunger in our communities. So collaborating with our partners in Point Key Strategies, who are working as our partners for strategic planning, we are going to work with them to reimagine our goals and strategies in concert with community. And we also have like a timeline. It's a 12-month timeline for this transformation process. This transformation process of 1 year is going to have 6 different phases. Right now, we are in the operation phase, and we have a lot of work to do, but we are very, very excited because we want to share with you and announce the new plan, the new transformation plan for Blueprint. In the meantime, we want you to continue involved with the work that we have in Blueprint. There's a lot to do. A huge piece of what we do or the value of Blueprint is the work that we do with each one of you, our members, our partners, to support the work and ensure that the projects that we're working on are innovative, are that they are meaningful and supportive for the community. Next slide, please, Michelle. And as I was saying, one more time, Michelle, please. We invite you to continue working with us. There are many different ways that you can continue being involved. It could be using our data dashboard, our network job board, our equity resources, our toolkits and materials. And we have many, many resources available for you. So we invite you to visit our website to continue connecting yourself with Blueprint and with all of our members of our staff. And now I'm going to pass it to Michelle so that she can tell us a little bit more about what's next.
If you'd like to stay informed with what's happening with the Blueprint and get more engaged, one of the best things to do is to subscribe to our newsletter. So we send out a bi-weekly newsletter with information and updates, news about the Blueprint, but also a lot of opportunities and resources from our network of partners. So we'll share funding opportunities that are available locally all the way to national opportunities, workshops, events that are coming up that might be applicable to our network. So a lot of information. And we also like to spotlight our network of partners. So we will share feature stories about our community partners and the great work that they're doing in their community, best practices that they're doing that might be of interest to others in our network. So really lifting up community voice and helping build community power too. We also are active on social media as well. So right now you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or X, formerly known as Twitter. And again, there we share out a lot of information, news stories, happenings, funding opportunities, other opportunities, and ways that you can engage. So we definitely encourage you to go there if you'd like to stay connected. And then lastly, we do have 2 websites, one available in English and another in Spanish. So you are welcome to visit our websites to get more information about the Blueprint, along with what we're doing within our work groups and committees and project teams, as well as resources available to our network of partners and anyone beyond that too. And we'd like to just close out here, as in on this last slide, we do have our website accessible. So you are more than welcome to go there, whether you want to visit in English or Spanish. And then as always, if you have any questions about the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, we welcome you to reach out to us via email, and we are more than happy to connect with you and get you more information and answer any questions that you have. So thank you for watching today, and we appreciate your time.